My next guest is here to help calm our nerves, hopefully. Please welcome in Dan Geltrude, America's accountant. Dan, thanks for being on the show. There are now some big-time skeptics amongst the general electorate about where this economy is going. Are you one of them?
Not to the extent that we're going to be in another Great Depression. I really think, actually, I was surprised to see those numbers so high, Scott, but this is what it tells me, that inflation is so insidious that they think it's going to be like the 1930s again. Remember, in the 1930s, you had people did not have enough food. They were on breadlines. Some people were actually selling their children because they couldn't afford it. So the mindset of people to think it's going to get that bad, well, that's a sign that the people in Washington and, quite frankly, people in government all across the country should be saying, wow, there's a big problem, and most likely there's going to be big changes. So if you're an incumbent, perhaps in either party, look out.
You know, I think two things I would add to that. Number one is maybe they feel that way because they know that they've tapped out on their savings and their credit cards. They might have that feeling, right? And that can be pretty scary. But number two is that, you know what, the messaging has got to be very bad because we've got an unemployment rate of 3.6, whatever it is, percent around there right now. But in the Great Depression, it was 25%. We've got a long way to go to get to that bad of a level. And if we've got folks feeling that bad, that's got to be a messaging problem, doesn't it? Or at least you're right, an inflationary messaging problem.
Well, it certainly is. Scott, right now, I believe there's still about 11 million job openings in this country. So that's why I'm saying I don't see us going back to a 1930s type depression. But you said something earlier that really struck me. You know, the government over the last couple of years, they've been like a drug dealer, and they got a lot of people addicted to free money. And you know what? That spigot is starting to kind of go to a drip, yet the spending habits are still there. The American people, they want their fix of that free money, and it's just not there anymore. So that's why you're seeing savings being depleted, plus credit card debt going up. So there's a lot of people that are going to feel some serious pain until they can go through detox and stop being so addicted to all this spending.
These central banks, Dan, around the world have so overshot the mark. It's almost criminal because I wanted to bring up something that we had on the show yesterday, but we were talking about how Germany's 10-year yield has shot up and in trying to get rid of their inflationary problems there. But I wanted to remind everybody that for a long time, Dan, that 10-year yield in Germany was it was priced at a negative, right? So if you put 10 grand in the bank, you got back 9,990. So that is how bad these banks have managed themselves, where they pushed rates so low that some of them actually went into the negative. And then now we've had this boomerang effect, and it's way overshot the mark on the other side, and it still hasn't stopped overshooting. That's the problem.
And you know what? I think what's happened too is that the banks were feeling the pressure from government across the board, right? So the number one aim of politicians is to be reelected. So during that period of time, to keep everyone addicted to spending and keeping the economies so strong, you're keeping those interest rates so low and even negative. So what happens? It artificially juices the economy. But at some point in time, you run out. Now what happens? Well, you're seeing it with inflation and all the pain that people are feeling. And that pain is going to boomerang back to the governments and the people who are in power, whether they were there or not when it started. They're going to be held responsible for this reckless spending and bad financial management all the way around.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so the folks in charge that are saying that the 2 or 3 trillion we poured on the economy was not inflationary, it's Putin's price hikes, or it's the war in Ukraine and Russia, might not be really telling 100% of the truth there. But I think that, look, this is going to be something that's going to be with us a lot longer than folks think, number one. And number two, Dan, I don't think they can just solve it with interest rate hikes.
No, this can't be solved with interest rate hikes. There's a lot of bad policy out there, Scott, that has to be reversed. And I know you've talked about it endlessly. It starts with energy. And until we start to change our energy policies, and by the way, as long as Joe Biden is in office, I don't see it happening. So we're going to see the price of energy continue to skyrocket. Inflation is not going to go away unless you start increasing interest rates by crazy amounts. You
Right.
want to start upping it 2, 3, 4, 5 points at a time? Well, yeah, you'll throw the country into a recession and you will stop inflation at that point. But nobody's got the guts to make a move like that.
To bring it full circle before we go, that's because they want to get reelected. They'll never, ever do that. That's what you just said. Thank you very much, Dan Geltrude. Thank you very much for being on the show, taking the time. I really appreciate it.